Welcome back to Metropole Business Center, and just a reminder, you know that if it's Tuesday, we're casting the spotlight on the small and medium enterprises in the country. And I have a very, very special guest lined up today. With me virtually is Mary Mudhoni, who is the CEO of Women in Business Network. And Mary is going to help us understand some of the key lessons that SMEs drew from last year and how they can use those to gear up for this year. Thank you very much for making time to join us today, Mary.
Hello?
Thank you very much for joining us today. Can you hear me?
Thank you too for having me.
Perfect. Now, Mary,
I'm excited to be here again.
Great. Before we even get into the flesh of it all, I know you're the CEO of Women in Business Network. So just for our viewer at home who's watching, you could just start us off by telling us what is it you do for your enterprise and with your enterprise, and how is that linked to small businesses in the country?
All right, to start off, I will introduce the Women in Business Network, community network of Kenya. It's a network that has 1.2 million women across the country. And of course, a few good men, which are not more than 1% of that. And our key mandate is basically to, we have 5 pillars, that is networking and capacity building. We have policy and advocacy. We have events. We also have market linkages. We have financial inclusion and investments. Those are areas, if you look at them, in one way or another, at every one time, a woman who is doing biashara in Kenya, whether you're at the MSME level, whether you're the Mama Mboga level or at the corporate level, in one way, you'll need financing for your business. You will need market linkage for your business. You'll need credible networks for your business. And of course, to crown it all, what makes a business run is a good environment and formidable policies that work for us. And so to speak, this is where we are as women in business. And to connect it, we are truly connected with what is happening around and what is favorable to our businesses.
With that then said, Mary, what criteria do you use to select who joins the network? I mean, how does someone tap into all the things you just mentioned here today? We tapping into individuals who have already registered entities, like that is women who have registered business names and women who have registered companies. However, we tap in also to the informal sector, whereby we have groups that are already registered, either as chamas or community-based groups. And we also encourage them that the law allows them to register their businesses as individuals, because that is a factor that most people skip, and they always think you have to pull in your friend or your relative so that you can register a company. So we have a project that is named Women in Business Mashinani. And Women in Business Mashinani is basically to ensure we teach or we educate women on documentation. And documentation starts from registration of your business name or registration of your company, which is very, very key. After all, anywhere you go and the benefits that you're looking for, nobody will listen to you if they don't know who you are. So to speak, for us, for you to benefit even into the opportunities that are coming by from private sector, from government, and things to do with the 30% procurement rule, somebody needs to know who you are. And the only way to get to know you, it's not through your name, it is through your registered entity, if you're a true business person. Thank you very much for that, Mary. Now, to just get into the topic of the day,
Small and medium enterprises. Last year, we saw the small and medium enterprise sector really take a hit from the pandemic. From someone who's actively dealing with people in that sector, what would you say were some of the key lessons drawn from the pandemic, and how can those then maybe inform decisions and operations of SMEs going into this year?
All right. 2020 was a lesson learning year, and so to speak, to very many businesses which have taken a dive. I can start by just giving an example of myself, who runs a school, St. Petro Premier School in Embu, and we had closed for close to a whole year, you know. So and so many other SMEs had to learn lessons, and some of these changes could be things could be how to embrace change. You see, businesses must prepare employees to work in the new environment, as well as devise new methods of cash and liquidity management. When you have to have pay cuts for your employees, really you have to prepare them every now and then that this is a change that has affected everybody, and we have to move with it. Again, the use of data analytics to help companies make informed decisions when cutting costs and boosting brand confidence is very, very paramount, because sometimes SMEs make decisions out of emotions, or because somebody else is doing it, then I want to do it. It is the high time that we use data analytics to ensure that we are able to know which move or which is the next direction that we can take. Again, digital shift. We have found ourselves, for instance, the schools, we have found ourselves having digital learning, which has really affected, you know. So digital shift, which is part of business development managers, will have to ensure that value proposition aligns with customer needs by adjusting product, portfolio, and channel mix. Because in one way or another, you cannot just say my business is a word of mouth business. You have to embrace other changes. And there's already, globally, there's already digital revolution that you have to move with. If your business is left out in this, then you might not be in business in the next few years. Again, since most customers have moved online due to the to government directives aimed at containing coronavirus, business leaders are also encouraged to invest in the digital customer experience. How is it to trade with somebody online? Is it as effective as opposed to when you have a shop and you can see the person, you can chat with the person? How do we make it more effective? So that needs to really be looked at. The other point that I would want to mention are by reducing barriers to trade. By reducing barriers to trade across the region, local manufacturers will be empowered to scale up and become more cost competitive. You see, of course, to provide clear incentives to set up businesses and investments in priority sectors that have a potential in the region or globally, the global footprint. In this case, if we look at Kenya, we have our Big Four agenda, which to me should be a priority possibly to most of the big corporates, so that we can be able to achieve this as a country, and of course also as individuals, individual companies. This includes clarifying the regulations on special economic zones and economic processing zones, etc. Then finally, government policies. I talked about an enabling environment from the government, and government policies can create enabling conditions for digital business models. And of course, governments again can support businesses to pursue this opportunity by implementing social protection measures to cushion household finances. So in this, what I'm saying is, it is a lesson that as SMEs, we should be in tabs with what policies are working for us. It is a lesson that we should not ignore anything and call it government, and we have our own small set called business. It is integrated in one way or another. I have seen the president of this country and the government of Kenya trying to come and cushion the SMEs through taxes, through jobs, through job creations for the youth, and many other things that we can count on. So if we can be keen on those areas, then of course things would be good. Finally, market linkages. We have learned that sometimes you need to be in-house ready. For those people who have been in export and import, when the borders were closed, it was a big lesson that inter-county trading must be enhanced, and especially amongst the SMEs. The only thing that we have to really pull up our stocks into is to move in, maybe have very serious talks with the Council of Governors so that we are able to harmonize some of the laws over taxation. Says, some of these taxations that are taken and are different from county to county. Sometimes you'll get tired if you're in the transport business and your lorry has to move from the border of Busia to Mombasa. The amount of money that you pay along the road, forget about even the corruption, So there's a lot that we have learned. Right. And I am just one example of the lessons that we have learned as SMEs.
Now, Mary, you've done a brilliant job in actually incorporating the interventions needed by SMEs to address the prevailing problems, which is, access to markets. You mentioned the need for SMEs to leverage on digital. However, when we're to stick to the line of thought of change and the kind of change that the pandemic brought into the space of operating with businesses, we also saw several other opportunities crop up that were ideally non-existent before the pandemic. So to stay with that, what would you say are some of the opportunities that are now available for SMEs to venture into that could actually boost their businesses and, somehow shift from the way they were doing things traditionally?
As I have mentioned when I was explaining on the lessons that we have learned, of course, we have seen the markets open up very quickly. And one of the key areas that very many people have opportunities is digital marketing. The digital world, providing platforms for women to trade online. It's a key thing right now. And again, I've also seen the government improve in terms of policy tightening and also encouraging more into it. Possibly what we should be talking about right now is how do we implement on the already existing opportunities that have been given to us, because we have quite a number. But possibly at the implementation level, we may need to tighten a few bolts so that we are able to have each and every person benefit from this.
Finally, Mary, before I let you go, would you then say the SME sector is on a path to recovery, considering the kind of hit and damage that was done last year? Where do we stand right now? Are things still looking really bad, or are we seeing, businesses come out of the woodwork?
We cannot answer that as in affirmative, but what we can say is, by the virtue that people have gone back, have picked up the pieces, and there are things, if there are those who need financing. There are financial institutions that are ready to finance your businesses back to the feet again. There are things that have already been put in place to ensure that you're picking up. Yes, we still have not picked up to the level that we may have expected. But all is not lost, because this is not something which was expected, and it is not something that affected one person or affected one sector. It's only the degree of the damage per sector that we can say that really pulled most of the people down. So all is not lost, and I would say most of the SMEs are up and running and ready to make it in 2021.
Thank you very much for that and for making time to be with us here today, Mary. Well, that was Mary Muthoni, the CEO of Women in Business Network, just talking to us about some of the key lessons drawn by SMEs from last year and what they can do differently to weather the waters this year. We've come to the end of this hour of Metropole Business Center, but we have so much more programming coming your way here on Metropole TV. Thank you very much for staying with us, and don't go anywhere. My name is Ingrid Nantege.